collaboration is the new competition. And in order for us to transition and transform this profession and level up with everything that's happening, we can't be our own worst enemies. My goal is how can I bring out the best from each one of them to share, we'll call them secret sauce strategies with all of you.
Welcome to Shift, an exclusive podcast by DSN. I'm your host, Blake Mallen, and this is where high-performing entrepreneurs and experts share their most powerful shifts in mindset, skill set, and strategy to help you accelerate your business and amplify your impact. I challenge you to be present, open your mind, and let the shift begin. Welcome to Shift. I'm your host, Blake Mallen, and this is one of my favorite times of the year. Matter of fact, at the time of this recording, we're actually preparing for Direct Selling News' largest event of the year. Matter of fact, next week, we're going to be gathering in Texas, where we get to spend time in a room with CEOs from up to 70 of the most respected and trusted and successful companies in the entire direct selling industry, and then go into what people love and anticipate, the annual Global 100 Awards. It's like the Academy Awards for our channel, where we get a chance to honor and celebrate companies that are growing, that are achieving, that are making an impact in people's lives, and then spend some time in Direct Selling University, where we get together, which every year is always hundreds of executives, C-suite, founders, owners, management on the company side, right, on the corporate side, all together in one room, really sharing transparently what we're all facing together as companies, as communities, as a collective channel, and what's working, how we're growing, and how we can continue to serve our communities all around the world. And I'm kind of nostalgic as I'm thinking about that this year, because it was actually this exact same time, this same event, 3 years ago. Crazy to even think how fast time is going, where after the event, I had a chance to have a candid conversation with the founder, the CEO of Direct Selling News, Stuart Johnson. And we were just kind of appreciating how DSN is able to bring such a unique community together. It is kind of strange, maybe even some would say weird, right? That we spend this time as what many would call competitors in a channel, as one community in a safe place, in a room of transparency, helping each other get better together. And we were appreciating and acknowledging how really, truly kind of special and unique really that is for an entire channel. But then there was something that was on kind of both of our minds of how we're missing that level of stewardship, that level of service, really to, let's be honest, what is the most important part of the direct selling community around the world. And that's many of you that are listening to this, many of you that have been following, right, this show, right, are talented, are passionate distributors, promoters, consultants, ambassadors, right? You, the representatives that bring the missions and the products and the services and the brands to people's lives every single day. And it was that conversation where we really recognized really a need. It was a need. It was a gap that has been in this space to really bring the same level of trust, the same level of credibility, the same level of really impact that DSN has brought to companies for over 2 decades to that most important community, the distributor communities around the world. And I'm telling this story because it was almost 3 years ago that conversation led to the creation of Shift, right? This very show. And over the last, it's crazy, nearly 100 episodes, for those that have been following, we have been on a journey together. We've been on a journey where we've had what I feel really has been like a front row seat, like a behind the velvet rope. We're talking real direct access to undeniably what has been some of the most successful top performers and top achievers in the channel across product companies, service companies, and such a wide diversity of inspiring, empowering stories that have taken time away from their teams, their families, really to sit with us, to pour into us, to share some of the greatest shifts in their journey in their story, the greatest shifts in mindset that allowed them to achieve what they've achieved, become who they've become, shifts in methodology, in strategy, in ways of working totally transparently, all from the pure intention of service, right, and stewardship to impact people and help you, right, our community and help our channel around the world. It's been a journey. And in the spirit of what this show is all about, a season of shift in the world, a season of shift in the channel, exploring shifts in individual journeys along the way. I'm smiling, and you can probably sense my energy of a mixed combination of gratitude, maybe some pride, and honor and excitement, as I get to announce here to all of you for the very first time that we're all going to be making a shift together. And that this episode, I'm not just going to call a special episode. We've had a lot of those. This episode will actually be the finale episode of the shift season of this DSN podcast, as we get a chance to make a shift together and actually kick off what's going to be a brand new season of this podcast, continuing on under a whole new elevated brand, a whole new exciting direction from the learnings over the last 3 years. And we get to bring on a brand new host to usher this show into a whole new generation. And I can't be more excited to introduce, and I can't feel a more appropriate, extension of this conversation than the gentleman that gets to grab the mic, to take the baton and to usher in the new season, serving distributor leadership all around the world. He's not a stranger to the show. He's definitely not a stranger to the channel. Matter of fact, he was a guest on Shift, one of the most listened to episodes, something that delivered value, as he has done throughout his over 2 decades in the direct selling channel. Someone that came from the field, someone that went through that decision that many of us did, signing an application for the very first time in a company, making a leap into entrepreneurship, going through all the things you have to go through to rise to the top and become a top income earner and top performer in his company, and then felt the calling to expand, to go mentor and coach from a larger platform and really reach across all companies, all brands. And that is what he has spent his life and his career doing. He has literally coached and mentored and worked with some of the top 1% of earners and executives across the channel. He has trained, and this is a crazy number, right? Over 1,700 documented 6-figure earners in this channel. I don't know if there's someone that has been in touch with more top earners across the channel than this individual. He is a thought leader. He is a speaker. He's an author of 18 books so far, really equipping people with tools and methodologies to grow in direct selling. He's known not just for inspiration, but really delivering the hard tactics of what is working today based on experience and insight, and really beyond all of the professional accolades and everything that makes him the absolute right person to usher in the next evolution of this show. Probably what I'm most proud of, and the thing that's most important to me, he's an amazing human, someone that serves from the right intention, someone that is here really to grow a channel that we all love, and someone that continues to show up genuinely and authentically from a spirit that you can absolutely trust and delivers ultimate value. So with that entire preamble, I am excited to welcome back to the show in a whole new capacity, our new host of DSN's newest podcast as we move in to a new season of the show, none other than Rob Sperry. Rob, how you doing, brother?
Well, thanks for the introduction, and of course, thanks for all the work you've put in. I mean, I can. This feels like an emotional episode, which I don't feel that often in podcasts, right? Because we're always strategies, and of course, there's always some emotion and mixed in because of the stories and that sort of thing. But you put your heart and soul into this, and I know how busy you are, and I think sometimes people take it lightly. The fact that, yes, you mentioned all the other people that took time away, but 100 episodes in, I mean, you think about the preparation that goes into it, and the amount it actually really does serve and have that ripple effect. So I feel honored. I got the chills right now, just the fact that I get to help take that mantle and do my best. That's what I've learned. Pressure is a privilege. It's a Billie Jean King quote. I teach all my tennis kids that, have always. And so pressure is a privilege, but I definitely feel that. And just really excited to continue on and share any insights and perspective that I can.
I love it. Well, Rob, actually, I'm just even thinking, because obviously we've kind of known of each other and, had passing kind of casual conversations throughout both of our long tenure in this industry and events. But, it was actually this show, at least from my perspective, we really had a chance to connect at a deeper level. And I had the opportunity to learn about you and kind of from that episode cultivate a greater relationship. And I think you're the absolute perfect person to take us into this next exciting season. And, I want to talk with everybody, since this is the finale episode of the shift season. Why don't we kind of first, for those that haven't got a chance to know you, obviously you were on the show before. A lot of our listeners maybe listen to that episode, but I also know this episode as a finale might get shared right beyond our existing kind of subscriber base. So maybe just kind of set the context. Tell us a little bit, about you, personally, and then, really what attracted you to this project with DSN and kind of where we're going next.
Yeah, just a little bit about me. I actually grew up as the tennis guy. I played tennis. I taught tennis. I played college tennis, and then I ran a tennis club. So everything was just revolved my whole life around tennis. Long story short, got involved in the network marketing profession after saying no to 11 different companies. I thought you only do network marketing if things are really, really bad. Growing up here in Utah, just where I live now, I think there's 8 different companies off my exit, freeway exit. And so I just always thought you just don't do that. And then I realized that it's really your dream job. Like, think about it. Time freedom, recognition, leadership, personal development. You don't have a cap on income, all the different things. And so got involved, became the #1 recruiter out of 1 million distributors. And that's the short version among so many failures that we'd have to probably spend days going through. Fail forward faster, as John Maxwell says. I could share with you my 5th month in the business. I worked 80 hours a week. I made less than $400 for the month. And my wife asking me, is this going to work? And I just remember telling her, yeah. And in my mind, I'm like, what have I gotten myself into? So the highest of highs, the lowest of lows. Eventually, I did transition into coaching, which I don't think most people put it together, but they don't remember. That's what I did for a living. I was a tennis coach. Like, I've always done coaching. So for me, it wasn't like, oh, coaching sounds nice. That was always like just a calling in life. Now I get to go back as just free service. And I've coached the last 20, I think 17 of the last 20 years, I've coached high school tennis. I just do it for free as a give back and help out. And I get to help out with my kids and nieces and nephews and other teenagers and that sort of thing. And so I got to transition into a role more of, we can call it Switzerland, of trying to help out the whole profession, from consulting to keynote speaking to coaching. And then with coaching, I transitioned into more of working with the highest level of leaders. In large part, there's so much incredible free content out there. So I still put as much as I can out there. But the rest, I just said, you know what, that's what I'm going to do more from a living standpoint. And then you and I got connected and we were sharing ideas back and forth. And Stuart's just so awesome. He's like Wizard of Oz, right? Where he's behind the scenes, just trying to say, okay, how can I plug this gap or help here? And he's helping you out and helping me out and that sort of thing. And so, Stuart really helped plant the seeds of more and more of what you could do and what I could do and how we could all help. And so I got asked the idea, I know that it was both you and Stuart thought of me, which I take as the ultimate compliment of continuing this. And in large part, I think it's because I am Switzerland. So I'm not right now, I can take that dynamic as another layer, but also because I'm doing masterminds on a regular basis and I'm working with these 6-7 figure earners as well as with corporate, I could really give that unique perspective of, what's working in the field, what isn't working, right? Have a pulse on it. I do polls all the time. I do surveys with these top leaders to get an idea. And when I go in these masterminds, Blake, I'm actually the one that learns the most. Yeah, I go in and I get a coach and teach. I think the Costa Rica one, we had over 40 top leaders and earners. Average earner, I believe, had 20 years industry experience. So it's fun, it's intimidating, it's challenging, and I absolutely love it. So I'm excited to take that dynamic to the best of my ability and extract the best. That's my goal. I don't want to be the person that dominates the conversation when we interview all these legends. My goal is how can I bring out the best from each one of them to share, we'll call them secret sauce strategies with all of you.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, Rob, I'm smiling, and you just made me think of the conversation that I had with Stuart, and it was kind of both of us came to the same conclusion, not only quickly, but kind of, in fully aligned. And it makes sense, just because of who you are, the type of person you are. And when you're in this seat, right, with DSN, direct selling news, like people that know DSN, they expect a certain standard, right? A certain level of, you can use the word integrity, maybe trust is the core foundation. And you are that person. You have always been that person. And that's so important, and I wouldn't want to kind of pass the mic with something that is important for the channel. And I really believe the continuation and the work of the show is needed for this channel. Unless we had 100% trust in the person that was going to be able to usher it forward. And you are that as a person. And obviously, what you've done as a coach and how you position yourself as that perpetual student, I think you're going to be able to take what we've learned over the last, few years to a whole new level. And I will say for everybody listening, and Rob, you and I both know it's just as important today as it was in that story I just told 3 years ago. Like, we are still in this season of rapid evolution, right? We are still in this season as a channel, right, of transition and transformation. And we need that access. We need to be able to give that access to everybody for those that have the goals and the desires to use this business model to change their lives, to change their families. And I don't think there's a more important time to continue to deliver all of that. And that's really what this is about. And, for all of us, we're leaders, the best thing as you create an idea or you bring something to life, like the best moment is where you get to see that continue, right, and go beyond you. And that's really what this is about. I mean, for me, it's a proud moment, and I'm excited, and I know you're going to take it to a whole new level because of who you are, what you know, and really where we are as a channel. But let's kind of go deeper there, right? So you actually just said, even in your reply, like you've always been a student of what's working and you're a fan of what's working. And for those that are listening, that's actually going to be, right, the evolution of this brand. The show will evolve as we move into season 2 into what's working in direct selling. That'll become kind of the refreshed brand. The good news is it's the same show, so you're not going to have to resubscribe for those that are following the show on all platforms that we have been on. It will continue on the same channel, on the same platform, so you won't have to refollow or resubscribe. But it is an opportunity to share and go beyond the existing audience as we go into a brand new, right, kind of evolved season. But, Rob, let's dig in there. So, like, what's the vision behind, right, this new season? What's working in direct selling, and kind of what does that really mean to you?
I believe more and more with so much content out there, the information age, we can call it the TikTok algorithm generation. People want to cut through the fluff and they want to know the exacts. Like, they want to know, what are the 3 things exactly when you listen to a speaker? Like, give it to me. Like, they want to still hear the stories, don't get me wrong. But I look at it as in the end, they want to know the exacts. Like, for example, if someone's teaching about how they became successful, rather than just saying, oh, like, I just worked really hard. They want to know, well, what's your hidden talent? In this person, it could be specifically, well, I still utilize Facebook groups. Okay, well, break it down for me. Like, give me your top 3 steps for how to build using Facebook groups. Someone else could be, no, I'm completely old school. I'm face-to-face. Great. What are the top 3 things that you do? Someone else, right, could be, no, I build through big events. That's my strategy. We actually have quarterly events. And so I've got a whole strategy of like in-home to the bigger events to eventually the convention. And so as I was thinking through this, talking with you, talking with Stuart, we got Jason that helps us host these behind the scenes and really just thinking on this. This was the conclusion of getting to what's working, but being very specific. So every single guest beforehand will be thinking about what is your super talent or the one thing you want to talk about. Because niches to riches is a big thing. If you try to be everything to everyone, you're nothing to no one. So podcast listeners are going to be listening with a specific intent of what's going to be the theme of this guest speaker, and then what are going to be the 3 things. And the reason why I chose 3 as the focus, it doesn't mean there aren't going to be tangents and other things, is think about this, Blake. I was learning this for public speaking. I do this every year. I try to go study public speaking and how can I get better. And they said that public speakers focus on 3s. Mm-hmm. And I thought about it. I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. They're like, no, you don't get it. Think about it. Everyone remembers things in 3s. It's area codes, right? It's NBA, all the sports. It's Major League Soccer. It's MLB. It's NHL. Then you look at the TV stations. For the most part, CNN, Fox, ABC, right? NBC, as you go. And I started thinking, oh, wow, I had no idea. And so I started studying the psychology of that. So I thought, okay, well, let's see if we can take that in this podcast and with what's working, specifically with all these legends, that we can make it instead of, all over the place, which I got to be honest, I have my own personal podcast and that's what I do. Some of them are great. Some of them are mid, right? It's just all over the place. And so we wanted to get very, very specific and just learn. And so that was the idea behind it. And that's what I'm really, really excited about, because I do really believe, and I know you think the same way, and I know it sounds cliche and cheesy, but collaboration is the new competition. And in order for us to transition and transform this profession and level up with everything that's happening, we can't be our own worst enemies. We got to start collaborating more and more and more. And that's what I love what Stuart does. That's why I love you did 100 episodes. That's absolutely unreal for the impact that it has. I mean, you think of even if just 10 companies, which we know hundreds did, just took a couple of the episodes of things they learned from what you guys went through and implemented, such a big ripple effect. So that's the purpose and the thought process behind it.
I love the focus. Sounds super simple, practical, actionable, and yeah, rule of 3. You already got me excited to kind of listen to who the guests are going to be and what's their superpower and how do they distill that down into like something I can understand. So I love the direction. I love the name, just what's working in direct selling. It kind of says it exactly like it is. And you kind of just gave us, I guess, what to expect, as a listener. And obviously I think we all can see the value in that. I'm hoping, obviously, we expand our base. Over the last few years, it has been awesome to see this really become a community. Thanks to everybody who has followed the show. Thanks to everybody who has gone beyond just them and shared episodes that inspired with other entrepreneurs. At the end of the day, that's what this all is about, right? Is service and impact. And the only way we get there is by people deciding to share, right, with people they care about. And for those that maybe want to use this as an opportunity, Rob, to expand, to share with their team, to share with their company, to get people ready for this next season, like, how would you describe it to a field leader that's like never heard this? So maybe you can kind of give them the language, not only to participate, but maybe even share beyond our existing community. How would you put that into words?
Yeah, what works is what duplicates. And the number one way to become wealthy, let's just think outside direct sales first, is leverage. You can't, there's only so many hours you can work. That's why people either have businesses or invest or create leverage. In network marketing, direct sales, we have leverage with customers, leverage with teams. In this business, another level of leverage is take something that you learned, but then go share it. Go share it with your leaders. Go share it with your team members. But then don't just share it because you never know who watched it. Sometimes what you want to do is you want to actually do a whole deep dive. Maybe that's what your whole training is going to be about. Maybe what you're going to do is you're going to drop in, hey, this is going to be, you can call it whatever you want. I know assignment can sound too much of just homework, right? You're not anyone's boss, but this is our challenge for the week. We're going to watch this episode that was done with Rob, an ex-leader, who shared on, how we can do a blitz in a week and it can change our entire business. And then what I want is every single person in this, whether you're using Telegram, WhatsApp, or Facebook group, I want you to drop inside of the chat what your top 3 takeaways were and what's the number one thing you're going to implement. Because I'm always going to come back to motivation is so important. Literally, like a lot of people make fun of it. I need it. Every single day I'm listening to motivation. So we're always going to have some motivation intertwined in everything that we talk about. But we're also always going to have takeaways, and we're going to simplify those takeaways to what's the one thing you're going to do to implement in your business. So do it yourself. But now if you want leverage in your business, do it with your teams, but you can't just send it out. Like, that's cute. Hey, here's this great episode. No. Create some sort of challenge for everybody listening and implementing, and everybody sharing their takeaways, because you just watch your Telegram, your WhatsApp, your Facebook group. If all of a sudden they see 12 comments of, oh my gosh, I was blown away. That insight, I haven't heard that for 10 years, or that one was brand new. All of a sudden they start seeing that, and that awareness all of a sudden prompts other people to listen, or to listen again with better intent. And so, that's how I would simplify for everybody to get a little bit more information out of this, out of all of this content, to leverage it, but also not just the normal leverage of just share. We want implementation. We want to hear these stories right behind the scenes where someone's like, oh my goodness, I listened to that one episode and it changed my business the last year, right? I double rank advanced or something like that. So that's how I look at it. So that's a good question. And to be super fair, Blake, I didn't think of that answer until you just asked it now in the moment. So
it's the truth and it's you, right? It's genuine. And we're picking up on already the theme and really the energy you're going to bring. And maybe let's go one layer deeper there. Motivation, you said needed, in your experience, how do you see the difference between content that like motivates or inspires versus, content kind of like you're saying that actually like moves the needle, that delivers results? Like, what's the difference there?
It's the why versus the what. I mean, so many people want the what, but if you don't have the why to move the what, then it never happens. 2 questions everyone asks themselves: can I do it? And is it worth it? And so how many people do you know on your team that know all of the what and they never do anything? And so you have to really combine those two, the emotional with the how. Otherwise, and I always tell everyone I'm not being rude because I went through this. It's just an awareness of we don't want to become the broken know-it-alls. And so we have to keep combining the emotion with the how over and over and over again, where they get close to connecting, and then finally they connect, or maybe it's just a little connection that propels you a little bit forward. And so I know for me, I thought it was fluff going to conventions, and so I was really like, I don't need to go. And my mentor was like, yeah, you do need to go. It's not just for you, it's for your team members. So I went thinking it was just for my team members, and I went, and I actually needed it. And it wasn't, you can call it fluff all you want, but it was like, I could see, wow, if that person can do it, I can do it. And it just deeply connected with everybody, going in the same direction. And so I think that's the same thing with motivation to help you constantly, because I believe we need to listen to ourselves less. This is going to sound weird, and talk to ourselves more, because often our mind is naturally negative, protecting us from worst case doomsday scenarios. And that's why I had to almost talk to myself more, which in part was listening to motivation. So I think it's so important. It's so empowering when you hear these crazy stories and obstacles and you see yourself, wow, like they're going through much more. They're going through what I went through, like bits and pieces of other people's stories that answer that question. Can I do it? Yeah, I guess I really can. And is it worth it? Yeah, because of fill in whatever memories you want to create or obstacles you want to overcome. And so I do believe that you always have to mix and match as you go.
I mean, so true and so simply, it's so profound, right? All of us in all of our journey, no matter where we're at, we need that why, that energy, that inspiration, that motivation, but we need the what, because otherwise we don't have the path, right? We don't have the methodology, we don't have the strategy, that mindset plus that skill set. And I know you're going to be able to deliver that, right, at a whole new level. And, I just want to say thank you for being willing to grab the mic. I don't think, right, there is a greater time, right, and a greater need. And let's be real, through this DSN platform, we're able to get access to leadership and conversations to people that the average person is never going to get a chance to sit down and get a candid, right, conversation of really what's working, and here's their superpower and here's their tips, right? And what's crazy is we're able to deliver it to everyone across the world, like for free, right? At a time where that's just not possible anywhere else. And it's needed. So thank you for doing that. I know because I've sat in this seat for a few years, that there's no other reason or other intent other than pure service, because it does take time. It does take energy, right? There is no personal financial opportunity, right, for sitting in the host seat. It really is coming from the pure desire to help people grow, right? Help the channel grow and help individuals grow. Because if we can help more individuals become their success, become who they're capable of, and make the impact, everybody wins. Communities grow, companies grow, our channel grows, and we're able to make a dent. So,
and Blake, I'm not going to let you off the hook. We're going to make sure that we got it. I mean, this is 100 episodes. You got 27 plus years in the profession. You've done everything from the corporate level, owner level, distributor side, all of it. And all of these episodes, I know you've been through it all. You've been through some tragic personal things in the last couple years that many of you have heard about and heard his episode on that and overcome. And I love the optimism. I loved hearing you in person, share about the loss of your home and communities coming together. I always love to, father first. I mean, we moved this episode up earlier today just because you got a kid's baseball game. So I think more important than any of this stuff is who someone is behind the scenes. That's what we all strive. That's why we love this so much. But let's do one last interview with you. What has this journey been like for you? And then I want to dive in later. We'll dive into maybe some key episodes and things that you learned, because I mean, I'm sure you've learned a lot. I'm sure it's been a process. It's been emotional. It's been learning lessons, strategies, all of it. So start out a little bit.
I see what you're doing here, Rob. Are you grabbing the microphone now?
I'm grabbing it right now.
We're doing the live
first
baton
episode
pass
right here.
I love it. We get to shift the script real time. Let's do it. Let's do it. What's the question? What has it been like?
I mean, spending 3 years doing this, 100 episodes, yeah. Right? What's this journey been like for you? And maybe what are some of the key episodes that just really stand out for you?
Yeah. Okay. So let's go into reflection mode. Let's do it. Well, first, just preparing for this, I can't believe that it's been almost 3 years. I mean, it's been 3 years since, I guess, the conversation, almost to the date, a little less than that from, the prep work and kind of when we went live with the launch episodes. That in itself was kind of crazy to think. I didn't even realize we were coming up on 100 episodes. So in preparation for that, it was even for myself to go back and look back. Wow. And I kind of mentioned this, Rob, and maybe you're in the same seat. For me, I guess the intention at the beginning was twofold. Number one, it was just to learn. I've always been a perpetual student. I still am a perpetual student. I love to learn. I think when the cliche, when we stop growing, we're dying. I think we all need to continue to evolve. And I am that, right? And I saw this as a way to, really just get a front row seat where I get to ask questions I'm naturally curious about to amazing people and get insight I would never get, right? Without being able to do that. And it delivered that, in terms of reflection and insight and, so much from so many people's journeys, and to serve, right? So it wasn't purely to learn. It was really to step in and serve in a channel I love. This will be my 27th year in direct selling. It's all I've ever done in my entire adult life since, 19 years old. It was a college dorm room story where I signed up, via AOL Instant Messenger. Yeah, I'm that dated. And I've had a chance to kind of sit in all the seats, right, and have that perspective in the field, obviously on the kind of founder ownership side for the majority of the time, in an executive leadership capacity, the last 7 years, and at all the levels, like all the levels, the peaks, the valleys, the wins, the losses, the trophies, the scars. So I just wanted to be able to serve a channel that I love and continue to see it thrive and grow. And I still believe, right, and I have for 27 years, and I think I'll go to my deathbed. Hopefully that's very far in the future. Really believing that there's no better business model for the average person to surround themselves with amazing mentorship, be given an opportunity that's an ultimate equalizer, and to show up with a desire, right, and a willingness to learn and to bring a work ethic to grow, to thrive, and to achieve an unlimited status. I believe that we have the best, and I want to continue to see it thrive. So, that was what brought me here. I guess to answer your direct question, what I didn't expect were maybe just the actual real relationships that got formed through this community, and our relationship deepened with our conversation. But, there's a lot that I met live here on a podcast, having a conversation about vulnerable moments in their life. And the relationship continued when the cameras turned off. And I think that's the ultimate, not just about this community, right? Really about what we do right in this business is we get, we have a mission or a vision or an opportunity or a product that brings us together. Maybe a personal goal or an intention or an outcome we want that maybe gets us started. But it's really, the unintended, maybe more valuable outcome is like real relationships and real community and real growth. And I think that's maybe the unexpected thing over the last, almost 100 conversations, and the relationships that'll continue on.
Were there any key episodes that really, obviously they're all great in their own right, but so no one get offended if you don't get a shout out here. All right. I already am prefacing that, but any key episodes that really stood out to you?
Yeah, and thank you for saying that. I'm always hesitant to answer questions like this because I do value every single person that said yes to showing up on this show, opening themselves up to the world, and just delivering in a, just an honest, transparent way what's working for them and the challenges. Because most of our conversations weren't around, the victories. They were around like the hard moments. And that's time. And that's the only thing at the end of the day we all have, right? So, a sincere thank you to every guest. And there's so many and so good. Maybe just so, I don't know, like, I think, Rob, it's the diversity, right? So it really is the diversity of, kind of everyone, every walk of life, different companies, different seasons, different stories. You got industry icons, Donna Johnson, 47 years, Lifetime Achievement Award for such a wise perspective, delivering just absolute nuggets. Richard Brooke and his story of like starting in a chicken plant and now, 40 years, you're talking 4 decades of experience, like, in this channel. When I say like icons, legitimate icon, Jordan Adler, you can't think direct selling without thinking about like, the impact like he's made and the stories that he, tells. So you have this like Gloria Mayfield Banks. Talk about number one out of 3.5 million in consultants in her company. Like, so, and there's more. So you have this layer of like true legends, just wealth of wisdom, and then you got like the total opposite. Like you got rising stars that like that seems like they came out of nowhere, and that are using entirely different methods, today. I think about, I think about stories of, Steve and Gina Merritt, a couple, and the analogies they bring, like professional athletes. I think about, Anthony, I always have a hard time saying his last name, Napolitano, right? Italian. Yeah. So Anthony Napolitano, what was it? Like by age 29, he visited like 70 countries around the world, like shot to the top of his plan, and brings this like intensity and vigor, just like totally different. So I can kind of like keep bouncing around Brian Carruthers, someone who tells his story of like shifting his path, his family's real estate company, and rising to the top of his legacy company. So I can keep going. I think, Rob, it's the diversity. Ada Caballero, someone who started, cleaning houses, and you fast forward 30 years, has one of the largest, most successful Latin American organizations in the entire channel. And like the beginnings that people came from, to where they are today, it's just inspiring. And then there was maybe one of the most powerful and maybe important conversations, not just for the show, but really for the whole channel, where Sarah Robbins and Melanie Mitro, two independent leaders, top performers in totally different companies, shared their journey and their moments when they found out that their company was going to go through an entire business model pivot and actually transition out of direct selling, network marketing, into a different type of affiliate model. And both of them just having the courage to stand up and really share on this show for the very first time what it was like to receive that information, to process, and then ultimately to lead through it. All of the families and individuals that had a belief in them, and to not give up on this channel, and to find a new direction, and to continue to lead through and show people what is possible. Such an empowering conversation, something that should be like a must listen for everybody in this channel, especially during this season. And again, I value everybody. It's hard. You have 100, almost 100 episodes.
Yeah.
But it's so many different stories, journeys, lessons.
Were there any patterns from all of those that really stood out? Because, that's a lot. Or were there certain things that it was just constantly just kept coming up for maybe patterns of success or patterns they saw of failures they had to fix or correct?
There's always patterns, and I'm glad you asked that question. That's something that like my mind kind of naturally always looks for, like, and that's kind of like what I do in my career, right? And in kind of strategy roles in the channel is like, yeah, what are the patterns? And there are, Rob. And it's super interesting because like, again, you have diversity of stories, diversity of ages, diversity of type of companies, diversity of geographies, diversity of backgrounds, right? So like you look at where everybody starts, where there's not a pattern is where people begin, because you literally have people of all walks of life and all different skill sets and all different ages and all different ethnicities and all different education levels and all different backgrounds that all show up to the same starting line. And that's amazing. But what is just astonishing, and I'm sure you've seen this in your perspective, is even with such diversity at the beginning, there come to be truths that tend to show up over and over and over again in everybody's journey. Everybody starts in the same place. No one's ready, despite what everybody thinks. Everybody comes to the starting line with like their own layered doubt and uncertainty and insecurity and inexperience. Belief always shows up before results. Even in the fast stories, there's never real fast stories. Like the fast stories that are fast stories are because they showed up to the starting line with a wealth of experience, wounds, and wisdom before they got there. Like everybody puts in the time, right? Now, how that manifests in success can be told differently. But like in my experience, it's the belief that has to come before the results, and mentorship, coaching, right? To use your word, that's the turning point, for everybody. Like nobody gets there on their own. It's not a instant manifestation, right? It is the right mentorship, the right coaching, the right choices to build the right beliefs, and then the results follow. I would say one huge theme, Rob, would be in almost every story of real success, and especially sustained success, right? Because there is a difference between hitting something for a moment and continuing to rise and evolve over a lifetime. Those are very different things, right? And in every story of success, especially sustained success, adversity, challenge, the valleys are the value and are required in order to learn the things, right, and become the person capable of unlocking what is next. And that has been a absolute truth, right, in so many of the conversations that I've had on this show, right, through all the leaders, and in life, like through anybody I surround myself around as entrepreneurs and successful people. We really are forged in the fire, right? Kind of made in the valley. And it's the stuff that most people tend not to talk about until you get them to open up and tell the truth. Consistency always beats an intensity. It's not about an intense burst. It's about a consistency over time that I think makes it. One thing I think you're going to go to a whole new level, Rob, and I saw this in like my conversations and in the last couple of years and the almost 100 shows, is like methods evolve. Right. What's working today evolves. Tools and systems and strategies evolve. And if you don't evolve, you're kind of stuck in a past season. Although a lot of the fundamentals stay the same. So it is a duality of like the mindset and the fundamentals actually, I think, are timeless, yet the systems and the methods and the strategies that bring those to life are perpetually changing. So bringing those things together, by fundamentals, like, comes down to people. We're in the people business. Relationships are a tie. Community is the heart. Personal growth is a core. And I guess last couple, I know it's a long list. I think most people through their journey, many maybe started out of an achievement focus, like, a need to get out of a situation, a pain they wanted to relieve, right? An income goal they had, a lifestyle they wanted. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. I started my journey with that. You probably started your journey with that. But for a lot of people, there becomes kind of a turning point, like a second mountain, right? To use the analogy for those that have read the book, where it becomes less about self and more about service. Less about just an income and more about the impact. And I heard that in different words through many of our conversations in terms of impact and service and showing up for the right reasons for the right people. And in doing that, money follows, right? Money doesn't lead, it follows that value. So I think those would be like patterns. I'm sure there's more, but those tend to be the things that come up again and again. Different expression, different language, right? But patterns. And and I think that at the end of the day, Rob, like the real shift to, I guess, the real shift in people isn't necessarily the script or the tool or the thing, right? Or the system. Yes, there are those, but I think like the real shift that this business brings out of people, and maybe it's entrepreneurship just as a whole, it's the shift in identity, right? It's the shift in who you're becoming in order to unlock those next levels. So those would be, I guess, what I've gleaned from my seat in the conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I like how you keep talking about identity and becoming, and becomes bigger than the money, which I remember when I first heard that. I was like, yeah, easy for you to say, because the individual I've made over $20 million. But the more money I made, the more I learned that it's actually true. It's 100% true. So I guess piggybacking on that and talking about the shift, was there any particular episode or maybe moment that you felt like created a shift for you personally? Because that's what you just talked about right there, is the person you become. So anything that stood out? I know that's kind of a tougher question, but we're going deep here.
And again, it's a hard one because I value all of the time. And I got nuggets from all the conversations, right? And even if you've heard something before, hearing it again always either re-stimulates the thought or affirms a feeling or hits you at a different time in your journey in a different way. And I've had that experience, right, kind of hosting the show, even if it might be something I've learned or thought of or read or heard. It's that emotion and that reel and that moment at your point in time that makes it land in a different way. It's why it's important to keep showing up. But I mean, I do have an answer to your question, because it has to be the Jesse Lee conversation. And I don't want to go fully there now. And for those that followed the show or in the channel, like, Jesse Lee Ward, such a unique individual, a unique human being. I had the privilege of working with her in our company closely. So I knew her outside of just the show, as a person, as a leader. And, I watched her go through all of her health journey, where she found out, she had stage 4 colon cancer, at 34 years old. That was back in March 2023. And the reason I bring it up in relation to this show is we ended up having our conversation, our episode for Shift, just a few weeks before she lost her battle. And it was the last recorded podcast, right, or conversation that she had on this planet. And in that episode, it was like a crystal ball. And even in that episode, which was just weeks before she lost the battle and passed away, I think it was September 16th, 2023, 34 years old, she was on the show, like showing up fully. I'm going to cry, like delivering value, giving hope and possibility and positivity. And like, that is leadership. Like someone literally weeks away from deathbed, showing up to serve and pour into because she cared that much. Like, that is living, and that is leading, right? And that is being at the highest level. And I think that's why her legacy still lives on in conversations like that episode, which is the most viewed episode of Shift by far. I mean, there's been a lot of top viewed episodes, because I think it really is like an insight into that level of leadership. So anyway, you got me emotional. That would be the one on a personal level. I think, I'm a believer that things happen the way they're meant to happen. I think there was maybe a reason that was the last recorded conversation. And, I think that episode and all the episodes, they're like timeless. We're moving on to a new season, but like you literally have this library, this archive of, almost 100 episodes that are kind of timeless. It really is kind of an archive of a masterclass with the best of the best that you can listen to, re-listen to in whatever order at whatever time. And it's going to land and serve in an amazing way. But yeah, that would be the one that comes to mind personally.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And it's so many lessons learned. And I remember hearing the ability to learn how to learn is the greatest ability one can have. And hopefully all of you tuning in continue to have that. So Blake, you're famous for always asking 3 questions at the end of every episode. So I think it would only be right if you get asked those same questions for the first time ever and you get to finish with that. And so we're going to start out. I think you know these questions. What is the largest shift in your professional career, Blake?
That is great. I love it, Rob. You are the first person that asked me these questions. That's hilarious. Yeah, so I've ended every episode and every conversation with these three. So I have thought about them because I've asked a lot of people then, but you are the first person to shift the script and ask me. Largest shift professionally. And I've shared this in various ways because in conversations, because it is truly the largest shift in my professional career. It was a mentor, and it was actually a twofold realization. It came at a time in my journey where we were in a total rapid fall, like a free fall. Like we had built to this extreme high, like an extreme high, a high that most people would fathom to get to kind of in their life and in their careers. And it had this crazy like journey up. And then this extreme fall, right? Like years falling down into what felt like the pit, the valley, the dark time. And I had a mentor. You mentioned John C. Maxwell. I worked closely with John C. Maxwell at the time, like, and he was a mentor figure. And he told me, he said, Blake, you're focused on the wrong gap. And like, what do you mean? He said, you're focused on the gap from the high point you were to where you are. And you're fixating right on what you think you've lost, but you forgot where you came from and how far you've come. He said, you got to focus on that gap. And then I had another mentor, and it was the same season, that put it in kind of to words for me more emotionally, because he got down to that identity word, right? He got it down to look kind of like self-value, personal value. And he said, like, your value as a person, it doesn't come from what you achieve. It comes from what you overcome. And it was that, Rob. It was kind of the two, but that emotionally put it into words or a principle for me. And it shifted my perspective forever, where my self-value as an achiever wasn't tied to the scoreboard, wasn't tied to the income, the volume, the bank account, the GB, the revenue, the EBITDA, the whatever the scoreboard is. As achievers, we get stuck to it. It flipped my mindset to making it more about, I know it's cliche, but it is about the journey. It is about how you show up when things get hard. It is about what you overcome when you get challenged. And it truly is about who you become along the way. Like, it's not just sayings. Like, for me, that's where I understood that. And so for me in my professional life, it was that mindset that got me through those seasons, and has got me through other seasons. And I've seen that kind of continually show up in different ways, right? Through leaders at the highest levels.
Really, really good perspective. I'm thinking of things from my personal life, as well as I got an incredible daughter that's got high expectations on Gap and always comparing with her highest achievements. And so some great analogies I'm using that. Now let's shift to personal. What is the biggest shift that you've seen in your personal life?
For those that have been following me personally, I've been very vocal, right, on my social over the last year. And you alluded to it, Rob, in kind of the opening. And I think we shared an episode on shift that was me sharing kind of the journey through my family losing our home in the Palisades fire, a little over a year ago. So for those that have been following, I think you're aware. And like I said, I have kind of shared the journey very, very openly and vulnerably on social over the last year, really as a means of healing and processing and serving those that were in a similar place. So it's around that. If I were to try to summarize that experience, I guess, in a few words, it would be knowing that we always have a choice, no matter the circumstance, on the meaning we choose to give, and the beliefs we choose to hold on to. And it's just another way of saying what we've said on the show and what many have heard, that like, no matter what, it isn't the circumstance that determines the outcome. It's how you choose to show up and respond to it. And over the last year, Rob, that's stuff I've said before. It's stuff I think I've believed before. It's stuff I've taught before, right? But when you get put in a situation where you literally lose everything, and I watched my home burn down with everything in it that I'd worked my entire career for, despite giving everything I could possibly give at that time. It didn't compute, right? Like, I showed up, I gave it my all, I didn't quit, and it didn't end up the way that I thought it would. And like, in those moments, you get really tested, because it's in the moments where you actually don't have a whole lot, right? Where it's like, do you really believe what you talk about? Like, it's really easy to choose doubt. It's really easy to get jaded. It's really easy to start to blame. It's really easy to get pissed. It's really easy to get angry. It's really easy to turn bitter. It's really easy to start to question when you're in that situation, and to choose of, okay, not what I expected, not what I wanted, not what I saw, not in my control. Am I going to believe that dots connect in the future? Things have meaning. There will be a way. Choose hope, choose faith, choose belief, choose possibility, even despite really bad circumstance. So for me, Rob, it was that. It was the same stuff I had learned and got tested professionally that showed up in my life at a more extreme level personally, that challenged me to say, look, do you really believe and live the stuff that you say you believe and live? And the outcome of it has been truth, and has continued to prove professionally and personally that if you choose that right story, and you choose the right belief, and you choose to control your story, and your narrative, that talk that you mentioned earlier, you can find a way, and a way will start to unveil. Might be later than you want, might be a different path than you want, right? But it does, in my life, again, in all layers, has continued to prove that.
Well, thanks for sharing. I know that we hear some of the cliches like your struggle is your story and your mess is your message, but only if you allow it. I mean, that's a pretty bad story if you don't allow it to overcome, or if you don't allow yourself to overcome. And so, hearing that and hearing your optimism, but also you're always very vulnerable, and the struggles you went through, and the inner demons you got to challenge as you go through, and you got to apply all of the life lessons and lessons from direct sales to it. So the last question, I remember when you asked me this was tough, because I'm not like you, where you've asked it 100 times. I was like, man, I got to dig deep when he's asking this on the spot. So I wrote this down. If you could give the gift of a single belief shift to everyone in the channel, what would it be? And then, of course, you can add any other closing thoughts or anything else, because you put in so much time and given so much to direct sales. Everyone wants to hear from you, my man.
Oh, man. I've loved so many of the answers that people have given to this question. I'm reflecting, Rob, and all my answers are actually the same answer. The answer is like, choose your story, and the gift I would give, right, to everybody listening and everybody that you share this with, is right now, as a channel, we get to choose the story we tell ourselves. And there are two narratives, right? I mean, you can choose a fear narrative. You can be the critic, and we all know, the model's outdated. Creators and influencers are winning. Like, the gig economy is taking our business. The products are being commoditized. Like, technology is evolving too fast. Like, we have perception. Like, sure, you can choose that story. And if that's your story, you're gonna have a hard time growing and leading and thriving. Yeah, I see a different story. Like, I see right now the gig economy, the creator economy, it's validating our model like ever before. Like, everyone in the world wants to become a creator, a brand ambassador, right? Referral, social commerce is normal commerce today. Technology is enabling the average individual entrepreneur to multiply, to amplify, like ever before. Like, community and human connection, the value that we bring, right, is only growing as technology advances in, what we do. Distribution, human connection, like, is the ultimate advantage. Like, I truly believe that there's never been a better time for our model because of the macro, right? We have to transform. Yeah, we have to get better. We have to adapt. But that's the story, So I guess my guidance would be, and my hope and my gift would be, choose the story that not only is the truth, can be your truth, that unlocks your potential, right? Your greater self, and allows you to make the greatest impact so we can grow what is the most amazing channel in the world. And that's it. You said concluding thoughts, just gratitude, gratitude for Stuart and DSN for taking the idea and saying, yeah, let's give this thing a crack. Gratitude to every guest that gave time to show up and give themselves. Gratitude to what has become a community, right, of listeners that have learned and grown alongside, right, the last 100 episodes and few years, and shared this with others. And gratitude for the future ahead. Every lesson and learned for the last 3 years, and for you, Rob, and DSN, for now grabbing the mic, ushering a brand new season, learning, right, from what we've done, elevating it to make it better, and continue to serve an amazing community around the world. Because, together we can make an impact and we can make a ripple. So I appreciate you and DSN and the time we've all had together, and excited for the next steps, and excited to be a listener and a subscriber and learn from the future guests and everything you're going to bring.
Well, it's going to be fun, and what an incredible season, as we're calling it. And like we made mention, you don't need to do anything. If you're already subscribed, you're going to be able to continue to listen to the updated new season. If you're not subscribed, get subscribed. And also, like I made mention before, you're going to want to share these with your teams and do little mini challenges. And what are people's takeaways as they listen? So with that said, as we conclude this very emotional, incredible episode, I'm going to leave it to you, Blake, to close out your last episode here with the shift and DSN, my man.
I love it. Well, this has been fun, Rob. I appreciate it. Thank you to all of you that have been with us on the journey. Let's continue together into the new season. And I guess until next time, for all of us, let's make the shift. Till next time, everybody.